I talk about energy healing, frequency stuff. So like think muscle testing. Muscle testing is one of the ways that we use energy frequencies to test the body, to figure out parasitic infections, to figure out other infections, nutrient deficiencies, things like that. We also use it to reset the energy meridian field so that your body is not as reactive to certain things. People call them allergies or allergy elimination. That's fine. That's not necessarily what we're doing. What we're doing is we're actually resetting the quantum field, the energy field, so that other things that come in don't create energetic interference. And we talk about this, and people are like, "That's crazy. That's silly. That's no one believes that." You believe that. Most people do believe that. And the way that I explain this is if you believe that sunlight helps the body create vitamin D3, which is a hormone, that's not the point. If you believe that sunlight helps your body make D3, then you believe in energy and frequency healing and energy and frequency medicine. If you want to use that term, I don't think medicine applies, but because it's physiology, but that's where it is. So what actually happens, and you can Google this, it is not sunlight. It's a very specific frequency of light. It's UVB. Go ahead and Google that. Like, what frequency helps the body make D3? It's UVB. So what our science is telling everybody, what everybody seems to know, that sunlight's good for you. Sunlight helps your body do many things. One of the things it helps you do is make D3. Then what you're actually saying is that you believe that a frequency comes from the sun. It comes down. This frequency interacts with your body and physically changes the matter that is inside your body. It alters the way that D2 is sitting, and it changes it from D2 to D3. That's what is actually going on, and that's what you're saying, is that sunlight, the light, the frequency of light is coming in and making actual physiological changes in your body. And I will tell you that D3 is a critical nutrient for life. And so the sun, frequencies from the sun, frequencies of light are critical to the way your body functions from a chemical perspective, which makes more sense when you actually break the body down and you find out that we're not chemicals. We are not just charges, the positive, negative, the protons, the neutrons, the leptons, the quarks. When you break it down to its very, very base level, human beings are light. We are coessed or coherent light. And that's basically that energy function. That's what we are. So it makes total sense that frequencies, specifically light frequencies, would affect our body in a negative and a positive way. So the idea that frequencies are creating issues or creating health is very, very valid. We have lots of science that points in that direction, just like I just showed you, the idea of D3 being created from light frequencies. And I think that the science is pretty proven on that one. So the idea that other frequencies could harm or could diagnose or could help the body, I don't see why that is a very big step in any direction, because we have this direct proof that we've all agreed on that light frequencies greatly affect the way the body functions. You can even take that a step further and talk about the frequencies of pressure. When pressure clouds roll in, nothing's touching you. That pressure, that higher pressure force, is creating changes in your body. Light, like there's a whole big industry on seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, where people get sad, they get depressed, they have emotional changes because of lack of sunlight. Okay, well, lack of sunlight, that's a frequency. There's no way you can break that down. Sunlight is frequency. And if you are getting depressed or you're having emotional chemical changes because you have lack of sunlight, that's another one of these things. So these frequencies do create, they interact with our body, and some of them are positive and some of them are negative. So when we talk about microwaves, when we talk about 5G frequencies, when we talk about, basically Wi-Fi, when we talk about, high voltage electricity. So remember, when you have electrical current, it travels from point A to point B, it travels in a wave. Perpendicular to that is an electromagnetic field, always. That's how electromagnets work. It's how magnets work. It's how all of this happens. It creates an electromagnetic field. And these electromagnetic fields will resonate, or they'll basically vibrate, or their cycle, or pulse cycle, is pretty set. And so that's the frequency. And so the frequency at what certain things function at affects our function. Just like taking an iron nail and rubbing a magnet down it 4 or 5 times magnetizes the nail, it changes the actual functional frequency function of the nail to become reorganized to the point where its magnetic field is now strong enough to pick up other things. So that's same idea. This is why, everybody who's talking about grounding, this is why this is so important. We resonate the exact same frequency our Earth does. And so going out and standing on the Earth will literally help reset the electromagnetic field that your body resonates at. And this is why it's so important to go out and ground. The big thing is that, and it's funny because you talk to people and you're like, how often do you actually touch the Earth? You're like, every day. No, you don't. You put shoes on, you walk around your house or your apartment or whatever, which is concrete and grid steel for rebar, for structure. That doesn't count. Then you have shoes on, and most of us get in our cars and drive to work, and we walk into work and do all the things, never standing bare feet on bare earth. I've talked to people who think that they haven't done it in 3 or 4 years. So this is one of those things. This is why people talk about grounding and why it's such a big deal. People talk about the grounding sheets, the grounding mats, because at the end of the day, we do produce an electromagnetic field, because if you believe that the body creates electrical flow, that your nerves create electricity, that your heart creates electricity, that every cell in your body creates electricity, because as we have that sodium potassium pump, what's actually going on is we're actually exchanging ions or exchanging electrons, which is the free flow of electrons is electricity. And so anytime there's electricity, there's an electromagnetic field. So science pretty solid on this one, that we create as human beings our own electromagnetic field. Now, I will tell you that each electromagnetic field is in and of itself completely independent. It is unique because every cell in your body is a little bit different than everybody else's. The amount of cells you have is different. The structure of the cells is different. So all of the DNA changes, all the uniqueness of you is represented in your electromagnetic field. So, everyone's going to have a little bit different need. Everybody's going to have a little bit different function, but that's where a lot of this electromagnetic or this quantum or this energy or this frequency healing discussion revolves around. It's not nonsense. It's not silly. It is 100% scientific because it's backed by science. In fact, some of the things that like I said, the sunlight thing, you've known that forever. You've known, sunlight helps us make D3. Just no one's explained it to you in the fact that it's the specific frequency UVB that changes your function. So it's frequency. It is 100% frequency healing, or frequency physiology, or frequency function, however you want to term it, whatever box you're putting this in, whatever label you're putting on this, that's what it is. And so when we do things like muscle testing, I always tell people it's God's way of doing diagnostics on the body, because it is wildly accurate. That's how we figured out how to fix COVID. That's how we figured out how to, do parasitic cleanses. That's how we figured out, what organs we need to support and what we need to support them with, and if food is good for you or if food's bad for you, or, all of those things. It's all about the frequency function. So, when we tell people that we muscle test things, we test them with quantum, however you want to say it, that's what we're talking about. We're testing the frequency function of the supplements that you either bring in or that we have here. And that's how all of this is kind of put together. So start looking at that frequency function. One of those things that once you start looking for things, if you know something is there, if you're aware of something's existence, you'll start to see it. So look into that, because a lot of people don't know or don't think or maybe even don't believe that frequency work or frequency medicine or frequency healing or frequency therapy or frequency whatever, or energy, replace the words energy or quantum. They don't believe those things exist, but they will tell you that they believe that sunlight helps the body make D3. Those two comments are in contradiction. So if you believe that sunlight, specifically UVB frequencies, alter the body in a positive manner that is critical to our health, because D3 is critical to our health, then you at least have to be open to the idea that we have the ability to, diagnose and utilize that system and, work with frequencies to not only heal, but to, maybe influence the function of the body. Now, once you kind of go, all right, okay, I get that. Then you also have to understand that just like you can use supplements and sometimes medications to help alter the body in a positive manner, you could use drugs to alter the body in a very negative manner. And you can do the same thing with frequencies. So once you understand that, like I always say, anything powerful enough to help the body is powerful enough to hurt the body. And so that's where we start getting into, different things with frequencies. And like everything else, everybody has a little bit different tolerance to it. And I've worked with people who can't be around computers, and I've worked with people who are around high voltage stuff and frequencies and microwaves and stuff, and they never feel it. So, everyone has a little bit different frequency function. And my assumption is that as we start learning more about this, we will understand it a great deal more. The reason that we don't put any effort into figuring this out or working with it or seeing how we can better it is because it doesn't work with pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals they're energetically dead. And so when you bring a pharmaceutical into the field and you try to test with it, it usually doesn't test well. It doesn't give you accurate information to function with, because it is not, it's not of this beneficial frequencies to the person at the time. Raw, actual, natural foods, natural things will always test with the body. Some you test off to, and we have to desensitize you. These will be the things that we talk about, allergies or where the quantum field's in flux of that frequency. But that's how a lot of this stuff works. And because it doesn't lend itself to pharmaceutical function, it is banned, ridiculed, and really, really, really held back from utilization or discussion in, medical or in health circles. So that's where it is. It is, I will tell you, someone who pulls a lot of blood, it is far superior to blood work. Far superior to blood work. I can test your whole body in 5-10 minutes and find out exactly where you are nutritional deficiency wise, parasitic infection, bacteria overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, stuff like that. And then we can figure out not only what you need, but how much you need. So it is by far the best testing function you're ever going to find. The problem with that is that it is also then tied to someone how good the practitioner is. So, once you get the information, once you get the data, it's what do we do with the information now that we have it? Just like blood work, and I see people coming here every single day, and the answer to their problem is in their blood work, and people missed it. So, and that's a whole different conversation. But it's the same thing. It's once you get the information, how good is your physiology? Because you're getting information about the actual natural body, and so you then have to figure out within the natural functional physiology, how does all these things tie together from a holistic viewpoint? Why are the adrenals low? Why is the stomach acid off? Why do we have a parasitic infection? Where do these things come from? What failure in the body? Where in the health chain did we lose function? Did we have like a sympathetic escape? Where do we have a neurologic or emotional thing that set us apart, set us into like a sympathetic state, that then created the cascade that we see in the gut? Where did this come from? Cool. That's the root cause. And so we can go to root cause and we can fix it. This is why I started bringing NLP into the practice, actually, is because what I found out was that the vast majority of gut issues, the origin, the root cause was not lack of probiotics or parasites or anything else like that. It was an emotional subset that allowed the person to be in the position they're in. So you look at the sympathetic, parasympathetic function, the neurology, what makes that shift? Emotion, fear, guilt, stress, shifts you from parasympathetic resting, digesting into sympathetic fight, flight, freeze. That's what's going on. So until you actually are starting to recognize that the emotional content is the biggest issue, you're going to have issues all the way around. And you can always test that, and you can get that information basically from muscle testing. So if you guys are trying to figure out a way to, like, you've got problems and nobody's been able to figure them out, I would go find somebody who's really good at muscle testing and give them a shot, because that is a tremendous amount more information than you're ever going to get from any medical test, because medical tests are designed to point to medical drugs as a solution, not as physiological solutions to your problem. So, all right, if you guys have any questions, drop us questions at chalmerswellness.com or talk in the comments. Talk to you guys later. Have a fantastic day.